Welcome to the latest of my deep dive videos. Today I'm going to explore the journey of Mars through the 10th zodiac sign of Capricorn, which begins at 7:34 Universal on the 15th of December, goes through to the 23rd of January. Mars is very much about urgency, action, can be about instant gratification, but it's also about thrust. The sign of Capricorn is much more cautious. It's ruled by Saturn, but actually Mars really loves being here. It's exalted. But we need to be mindful of the reception committee, the other planetary influences that are feeding in as Mars arrives, because ironically the dispositor of the sign of Capricorn, Saturn, its sole ruler, is in a square with Mars, but more acutely so is Neptune, and that is going to have quite the impact over the following 6 weeks. But ironically, at the end of that journey, Saturn and Neptune are going to be having another impact on Mars, but please stay with me as I explain exactly why. I'm astrologer Patrick Arundell. A very warm welcome. I have shared of late that over 50% of people who regularly watch my videos are not subscribers. If that's you, please help the channel to continue to thrive, and do so now. Please also click or tap the bell notification symbol. But all your views, interactions, comments and likes are truly appreciated. Thank you so much. Year 2026 is racing towards us. If you've yet to watch your deep dive video for the next year, please see the link beneath this video. So Mars, let's just think of the archetypes. It rules the sign of Aries, but also it's the traditional ruler of Scorpio. But in Aries, it's very much about hustle bustle. It can be impatient. It can certainly push forwards in a determined way. And I feel because the sign of Capricorn can be about that worldly, more professional sphere, even though it is late in the year, for some people there may be something that they really want to strike out towards before the celestial curtain comes down on this year. But also we can use the turbocharged energy of Mars as we go into 2026 in a very positive way. But I'm going to share with you the event chart from a solar perspective, a zodiacal perspective, which puts Mars in house 10, an echo of course of the sign of Capricorn, but also from a natal perspective based on Universal and Greenwich, because intriguingly that puts Mars in house 1. Really interesting indeed, because that's very much a reflection of that more Aries energy. But let's just talk about that exaltation, because Mars in Capricorn is really taking the appreciation of tradition, structures and form, but using the industry, the hard work, the perspiration that Mars can bring to that more thoughtful, structured approach that the ruler of the sign of Capricorn so appreciates, which is Saturn. So really important to be mindful of those two event charts. But then I'm going to share with you the upcoming aspects, because there are some mighty ones, not least early into 2026, in week 2, we're seeing Mars in an opposition with Jupiter, and that can be quite challenging. But just before Mars makes its exit into the sign of Aquarius on the 23rd of January, it's forging 3 absolutely blindingly brilliant angles. So please stay with me for that. I'll then go through each of the 12 zodiac signs, from Aries through to Pisces, to give you a flavour of what you can expect over these next 6 weeks for your zodiac sign from the perspective of your ascendant, sun or the moon. So first up, let's look at the chart from a zodiacal viewpoint. So on the screen we have understandably Mars right at the top of the chart on that 10th house cusp. So Mars there really is a double amplification, of course, of Capricorn energy just having arrived. But just look at that position of Neptune. That square is almost exact. And what we can have with Neptune is a dissipation of the drive that Mars can bring. So something we may want to reach out towards may some ways be deflected by some confusion or uncertainty, a lack of clarity, or perhaps even a lack of energy. And because Saturn, the ruler of the sign of Capricorn, is also in a square, it's just under 5 degrees, so in a natal chart that would be very powerful. So in this event, Saturn and Neptune, from a psychological perspective, suggest that whatever we want to achieve, and everyone's ambitions are different, we need to be conscious of the things that aren't so obvious, that are hidden. And that could be old issues that we've yet to process. It may be our own self-limiting thinking. If we are wanting to raise our profile, be more dynamic and ambitious, which is very much Mars in Capricorn, or if we're someone who's perhaps more of a born-again bohemian and fitting into a more orthodox structure where there are certain expectations and you have to meet the ideals of perhaps a big corporation or a line manager who tends to be a bit of a stickler. If you are more of a creative, Neptune and Saturn together is brilliant for creativity. A lot of artists have that in their natal charts, but it's not so good in terms of action. So even if we do say to ourselves that we want to seize that golden prize, even if it seems to be too late this year, but early into 2026. And of course, Mars will be in Capricorn on the solar return chart for next year. So I think for many of us, the implications of that is that we may need to become much more conscious of how the world of work is changing and how we can flex into that. And those hidden energies, whether it is to do with our own uncertainty, perhaps confusion, or at times lack of self-confidence, all of those can come from that combination between Saturn and Neptune. So I think that's the aspect that really stands out most for me. We can look at the moon, of course, the luminary, always critically important. That's just into the sign of Scorpio, where it's detrimented, it's in its fall, and also that's in a square with Pluto. So Pluto is about the collective, but in the sign of the collective, Aquarius, we have a tension between what we may want to achieve in terms of networking and in terms of what, again, might be hidden. So I just think that having hopes and ambitions is a very laudable thing, and Mars in Capricorn certainly usually can help us to make progress because of the thrust and energy that it brings to those ambitions. But there are some subtle psychological energies lurking around there we need to be mindful of. So let's now look at the natal chart. So Mars in the first house. So that's intriguing. The ascendant is in Sagittarius, and we do have Venus very close to that very important ascendant, suggesting that when we are trying to set our sights high, our people skills, but also our charm, is going to be very important to the process. But there is Mars in the first house. Now, Mars in the first house is much more the risk taker. It's not analysing things. It's not so much about the structural planning that we get with Capricorn. It's about having the instinct and going for it. But look at the position of Saturn and Neptune in terms of the nativity. They're in house 3, so that is the conversation. That is how we think. It is our connections, particularly with technology. Now, in a natal chart, we can get houses that work well together even though there's a clash, and the reason for that is that Mars is obviously just into Capricorn, but in terms of the exact degrees to Saturn and Neptune, very much a square. So just be conscious of that. So we mustn't rush things, because the sign of Capricorn can not be ponderous, it can be wise. You know, it's really asking us to think about our experiences, and the energy of Mars in the first house is more about just feeling it is right and taking action immediately. So I think what Saturn can help us with, in a way, even if we do encounter someone who does seem to be resistant to our brilliant ideas, is that maybe they are not quite on the same page, and therefore patience will be important to the process. You can also see that moon position in Scorpio is actually in the 10th house, so even if we are feeling exasperated, if someone doesn't get our job application or things aren't rattling along with our own business as much as we would like, it will be hard to disguise our frustration. And the intriguing thing is that Pluto is in the second house of money and self-worth and value. So I think what we can take from the event chart from a natal perspective, based on Greenwich and the prime meridian, not because I'm in the UK, but because I feel that it works for everyone wherever we are in the world, is that Mars brings a sense of urgency, but the sign of Capricorn brings a degree of caution, and Saturn is saying how we think, how we communicate and connect is going to be very important over these next 6 or so weeks. Now, just as we come to the end of the year on December the 31st, and therefore the solar return chart, Mars is actually forging a stunning alliance to the North Node. And that's really positive, because with Mars being about urgency in a way, and the North Node being very much about our collective instinct of the direction of travel, the North Node asks us as we come into this new year to keep being in touch with the more spiritual and psychological domain, whereas the sign of Capricorn is very much about the physical, worldly, practical dimension. Can be to do with property, of course. And I think that this solar return with Mars in such a positive angle to the North Node suggests we can blend the desire to go for it with being in touch with our instincts. That's very helpful. But on January the 10th, Mars and Jupiter come into a very powerful collision. So if we think Mars can be somewhat cautious in Capricorn, but Jupiter exalted in the sign of Cancer, so we had 2 exaltations connecting to one another, so that's positive. But Jupiter, of course, will still be in a retrograde. So I think what we can see is when people have particular belief systems, dogmas, which can be Jupiter, a desire to push their agenda, we may see an amping up in the rhetoric and the desire with Mars in the 10th house to dominate. And of course Jupiter in Cancer is much more about the emotional and spiritual dimension. So I think week 2 of January could coincide with some major news around the property sector, but also more machinations on the world stage when it comes to people wanting to grab what they want, Mars, without being too fussed about whether that works for the people that they may be grabbing it from. So just need to be conscious of that. But the profound irony of this particular transit is by January the 20th, Mars is forging a beautiful sextile with Saturn and also a wonderful trine with Uranus. And then on the 23rd, forges a beautiful sextile with Neptune. So as the process unravels, at the end of its journey through the sign of Capricorn, we can get a reward. But obviously the sign of Capricorn is very much about industry, practicality. It's the 10th zodiac sign, it's an earth sign, so it wants to know the tangible benefits that are quantifiable, not airy-fairy stuff. And also the more subtle energy of Pisces, which we have with the North Node, Saturn and Neptune at the start of the journey. If we're not tuning into that, that can cause us problems by just living in that practical sphere of Capricorn, very much to do with the worldly dimension. But by the end of the process, if we have found a balance between the two, there can be a significant payback. And I think the fact that Mars links so fantastically well with Uranus towards the end of this journey suggests if we have worked patiently, Saturn energy of Capricorn, but with intent and precision, Mars really using the available energy we've got in a very step-by-step, well-planned, well-researched way, a payback can come for us by the time we get to the 23rd of January. Please stay with me as I go through each of the 12 zodiac signs now. If you've yet to order your year 2026 personal forecast based on your unique birth data, you can do so now. You'll get 30% off, but also you'll get my life roadmap report, which helps you to understand the patterns that have played out in your life so far. A combination of that and the timing of your transits can help you to plan your moves in the months ahead in the best way possible. You also get my free gift of your zodiac, love, and Indian and Chinese forecast for each of the 12 zodiac signs if you order that too. So Aries, for you, Mars being in this part of its journey through the sky is particularly powerful because it's your ruler, but also the 10th house is the sign of culmination. It's where you could get some kind of breakthrough on something you've been working on in a very diligent and passionate way for some while. But what if that doesn't happen? How are you going to marshal your energy through to the 23rd of January? Well, just know if you don't get an immediate breakthrough now, before the end of the year, you can do by that time. And patience is part of the process with the sign of Capricorn, because if we do rush at things, maybe we don't appraise the overall big picture in quite the way we could. So do see this as an opportunity, but also know that there may be some delays. And part of the reason for that is the soggy combination of Saturn and Neptune in the square with Mars. Because over the last week or so, in fact really pretty well through the month of December, Mars, your ruler, has been challenged by Saturn, and that's meant that you may have felt that something has been a bit out of reach or a bit slower or not moving quite as quickly as you would like, and that in itself may have been creating some recent exasperation. Overall, the planets are saying to you Rams that if there are outstanding issues, maybe it's to do with past relationships, maybe it's to do with your conditioning, maybe even the messages that were given to you when you were a child that are preventing you from pivoting towards some kind of ambition that would truly excite you. Those need to be dealt with first. And obviously Neptune is returning to your sign on the 26th of January and Saturn on the 14th of February. And once they return to you, you're really in the present for the long term, which in itself is exciting. But of course they both moved into your sign for periods this year, Neptune 6 months and Saturn from the 25th of May to the 1st of September. And that may have given you a little bit of an eye-opener about some of the fresh approaches you could take. But the sign of Capricorn is very much to do with tradition, and it may be that you need to toggle between what you want to do and what other people think you should do, which is always interesting. But if you are someone with an exciting idea, as you go into the new year, it's not just going to be Mars that's with you, it's going to be Venus, the planet of money, but also relating in the sign of Capricorn. So there's a lot for you to look forward to by the time we get to the New Year's Eve. The Sun will of course be back in Capricorn too. So of course set your sights high. A combination of desire but charm can take you far in the new year. But if you've yet to watch your year 2026 deep dive forecast, please see the link beneath this video. If you've yet to watch your year 2026 deep dive video, please see the link beneath this video. If you've yet to order your year 2026 personal forecast based on your unique birth data, you can do so now. You'll get 30% off, but also you'll get my life roadmap report, which helps you to understand the patterns that have played out in your life so far. A combination of that and the timing of your transits can help you to plan your moves in the months ahead in the best way possible. You also get my free gift of your zodiac, love, and Indian and Chinese forecast for each of the 12 zodiac signs if you order that too. So Taurus, this can be a time of the year when people like to go away, whether it's to spend time with friends and relatives over the festivities or travelling for some snow or some sun in terms of a vacation, and that may be something that's calling out to you too. Just be aware, however, for you, Neptune and Saturn being in the 11th house, if you are going away with a group of people, just make sure it's really well planned, because someone might not be quite as cooperative as they could be. The other thing that I think can play out for you, you're someone who takes your commitments very seriously, and Uranus in recent years, but also Pluto, have been pushing you to get more in touch with what you need to do as an individual. And there may be someone in your friendship circle that ordinarily you would enjoy spending time with over the holidays, but I actually feel you might want to break out, be more spontaneous, perhaps spend time with people who haven't necessarily been your closest connections in the past. And that energy can actually take you into year 2026. So even if you're someone who has a real appreciation of the traditionality of your usual companions over the holidays, or you have a particular life path that you've been adhering to, I think you're being asked, in a way provoked, to be more experimental, more daring and more adventurous. But do you know, if you do, it can actually bring a real sense of excitement to your existence. If you've yet to watch your year 2026 deep dive video, please see the link beneath this video. If you've yet to order your year 2026 personal forecast based on your unique birth data, you can do so now. You'll get 30% off, but also you'll get my life roadmap report, which helps you to understand the patterns that have played out in your life so far. A combination of that and the timing of your transits can help you to plan your moves in the months ahead in the best way possible. You also get my free gift of your zodiac, love, and Indian and Chinese forecast for each of the 12 zodiac signs if you order that too. So Gemini, the arrival of Mars in Capricorn is the first of an arrival of the Sun on the winter solstice, and then on the 24th of December, Venus. And 8th house energy is intense, and therefore the energy of Mars in its rulership of Scorpio really is an echo. So it is to do with what you want, you're craving for, potentially intimacy, sex, maybe to increase your financial situation. And that cluster, that trio, is setting up the stage for when you burst into 2026, that those are going to be themes that could provide backdrops for the following 12 months. So intriguing, but what about the duo of Saturn and Neptune? Well, for you, they're in the part of your chart that's to do with ambition and your connection to the wider world. But because of the early position of Mars and the late position, particularly of Neptune, there is a square, and that could be a little bit challenging. So if you're discussing a business matter, a financial partnership, an investment, or thinking about reworking your resources in a bit of a different way, I think the important thing is clarity, which Neptune can make a little bit opaque. Also, Saturn means that if you are needing to deal with someone who has a particular viewpoint, it may be you that wants to impose your experience or knowledge on others, but there could be some resistance. So if you are in a relationship, for example, where you're not quite chiming together, the politics, especially if one person feels there's a bit of control going on, or leverage, or even jealousy, that could show itself before the end of the year, because what's going to happen is the Sun will clash with both Saturn and Neptune, and then Venus will as well. So if you are in any kind of relationship, business, with a line manager, or with a personal partner where you're not quite on the same page, and you both yearn for different things in a very intense way, that could show itself up. But if you're really wanting to reach for the stars in terms of your own enterprise, being more entrepreneurial, or you're wanting to gain more recognition for your talents in a physical and therefore financial way, there is a real opportunity for you in 2026. If you've yet to watch your year 2026 deep dive video, please see the link beneath this video. If you've yet to order your year 2026 personal forecast based on your unique birth data, you can do so now. You'll get 30% off, but also you'll get my life roadmap report, which helps you to understand the patterns that have played out in your life so far. A combination of that and the timing of your transits can help you to plan your moves in the months ahead in the best way possible. You also get my free gift of your zodiac, love, and Indian and Chinese forecast for each of the 12 zodiac signs if you order that too. So Cancer, there may have been some niggly frustrations around some practicalities of late, and part of that is because the energy in Sagittarius, which is about the routines of life, have been challenged by the location of Saturn, which can be limiting in the most freedom-loving part of your chart, but also Neptune. And we're going to have more of it, to be honest, as the Sun joins up with Mars in Capricorn. He also runs into that duo, and then Venus, as she arrives in your sector of relation on the 24th, she's angling in a tense right angle too. How do you work this through? Well, I feel it is by keeping the lines of communication open, and where possible, also being a bit more assertive. And especially if at work, it seems to you that you're doing a little bit extra than other people and they appear to be getting away with it. Or it could be at home or with flatmates who are not pitching in and doing their bit on the domestic front. So Mars can give you a chance to say, no, this is my boundary, you're not doing enough. So being more powerful in saying how you feel. But of course the 7th house can be about relationships, and as you go into the new year with Venus and the Sun's help, relationships are going to be very important next year. And because Jupiter, your ruler, will come out of that retrograde, and therefore as 2025 develops, but through to the end of June, a new beginning is possible around relationships, but it doesn't have to be romantic. It can be to do with a business partnership, with friendships, or a new respect can develop around your personal or family connections too. But it will come from a balance of thrust and desire and assertion, Mars, but also charm, Venus. So be aware of that. But as we come to the end of the year, Mercury still is in a niggly right angle with Saturn and Neptune. So some of the stuff you've been dealing with recently could still play out next year. If you're in a job which isn't very gratifying, it stunts your creativity, you're not really enjoying it, those themes could be there, but it's what you do to change that. So you may experience almost straight away with Mars moving into the 7th house, not conflict, but some tension if you push back on what someone's been taken for granted with you. But have the courage to do that. And of course Mars is going into an opposition with Jupiter in your sign in week 2 of January, and that could be a tipping point between getting something on a better footing for you. But by the end of Mars's journey through the sign of Capricorn, there may be a really powerful breakthrough for you. And it's all about the potential for collaboration, but it needs to be collaboration with people who respect what you do, but also you have a simpatico between you, so there's a meaning to the connection. So if things have felt a bit workaday, a bit frustrating, a bit irritating of late, it wouldn't be a surprise, but Mars is asking you to take the initiative to say what you will or won't accept. If you've yet to watch your year 2026 deep dive video, please see the link beneath this video. If you've yet to order your year 2026 personal forecast based on your unique birth data, you can do so now. You'll get 30% off, but also you'll get my life roadmap report, which helps you to understand the patterns that have played out in your life so far. A combination of that and the timing of your transits can help you to plan your moves in the months ahead in the best way possible. You also get my free gift of your zodiac, love, and Indian and Chinese forecast for each of the 12 zodiac signs if you order that too. So Leo, ordinarily, if you get a big cluster of energy in the sign of Sagittarius, it's fun, fun, fun. And there may have been moments over the last few weeks where you have felt very enthusiastic, playful, and your very charismatic nature has had a chance to shine brightly. But from about the end of the first week of December through to now, Mars has been challenged in its latter part of its journey in Sagittarius by Saturn, and that's not a great mix. So if you have experienced someone who seems a bit envious, jealous, possessive, controlling, or there has been complications around your love or social life, perhaps around shared finances, not a complete surprise. The great thing about Mars moving into Capricorn, even though it's still in touch with the right angle to Neptune and Saturn, it can boost your stamina. So through to the end of the year and then the third week of January, if you are wanting to be really conscientious about resetting your approach to your daily routines or being a bit more careful about what you eat and drink in the new year, Mars will help you. And also, because this can be a very stressful part of the year, you're just going to have a little bit more vitality to deal with the stresses and strains that could be coming your way. The other thing with Mars, of course, it can be about desire. The sixth house can be about work. And it's also about the processes within work. If you're not really gaining a lot of satisfaction for what you're doing now, as you go into the new year, you may find yourself wanting to be much more outgoing and enterprising. Now the great news is there is a stunning new solar eclipse coming in your sign in August. You're also going to have Jupiter joining you at the end of June, and Mercury will be in contact with that solar eclipse as well. So the second half of 2026 can be much more enterprising, free-spirited, but if you are feeling that you need to tie up some loose ends, I think that Mars moving into this area can certainly give you the appetite to take on the challenge as you enter the new year and the last phase of this one. If you've yet to watch your year 2026 deep dive video, please see the link beneath this video. If you've yet to order your year 2026 personal forecast based on your unique birth data, you can do so now. You'll get 30% off, but also you'll get my life roadmap report, which helps you to understand the patterns that have played out in your life so far. A combination of that and the timing of your transits can help you to plan your moves in the months ahead in the best way possible. You also get my free gift of your zodiac, love, and Indian and Chinese forecast for each of the 12 zodiac signs if you order that too. Virgo, Mars moving into the fifth house is brilliant. The fifth house is about passion, fun, creativity, but most of all it's about action. The fifth house has a very Leonian vibe, even though the host is Capricorn. So for you, I feel that you're going to start to get into the festivities. But there may be a feeling that it's a bit stop-start to begin with. Just know that once the sun arrives on the winter solstice, followed by Venus on the 24th of December, and they've both got past the roadblock, which is Saturn and Neptune themselves, the last week of 2025 can be a lot of fun for you. Now you can be very conscientious, very much focused on making sure that all the details are working right, that if you have family visiting over the holidays, you may have been recently actually quite busy around redecorating or making some space or perhaps moving the furnishings around. But I feel that there has also potentially been some challenges around some close relationships, mainly because you may have felt much more sensitive of late, particularly since Mercury, your ruler, moved back into Sagittarius. But Mars moving into this area helps you to regain a bit of spark, and you'll feel more outgoing. But if there is someone who's proven to be a little bit stubborn or cool or a bit critical, that energy may still play out a little bit towards the end of this year, but you're going to become an unstoppable force, and just let that part of you, which can be very good humoured and also be in touch with the things you know you need to do. But if you are wanting to let your hair down a little bit, once you get beyond that challenge of Saturn and Neptune, you are going to be much more in the festive spirit. If you've yet to watch your year 2026 deep dive video, please see the link beneath this video. If you've yet to order your year 2026 personal forecast based on your unique birth data, you can do so now. You'll get 30% off, but also you'll get my life roadmap report, which helps you to understand the patterns that have played out in your life so far. A combination of that and the timing of your transits can help you to plan your moves in the months ahead in the best way possible. You also get my free gift of your zodiac, love, and Indian and Chinese forecast for each of the 12 zodiac signs if you order that too. So Libra, for you, Mars moving into the 4th house could make you a little bit more outspoken when it comes to family and emotional strands. You know, with Pluto having gone through that long journey from 2008 to the November 2024 with some interventions in Aquarius, that showed up quite a lot of potential politics around people you had been close to, or around property matters, or if you have renovation issues, or there's been some challenges about actually physically moving. Pluto, of course, can be about transformations, but over the last couple of years, following on from Pluto's influence, Saturn and Neptune have been applying a little bit of extra pressure around routines, work. Perhaps your physical vitality has been a little lower as well. And for you, the cluster of energy in Sagittarius is sparkly, it's effervescent. You have your ruler Venus there, it's chatty, it can be flirty and fun. So Mars moving into the 4th house is a bit of a change of onus, but it is still in touch with that duo, Saturn and Neptune, in not a particularly helpful way. So if there has been some tensions of late, maybe it's within you about knowing where to focus the available energy you have. If you have felt a bit like you've been spread a little bit too thinly, wouldn't be a surprise. So initially, I think Mars's arrival does ask you just to hold off if there is something that you have felt exasperated about. But by the end of this year, once the Sun and Venus, your ruler, have joined up with Mars, I think how you feel about your immediate environment, so that could be in terms of where you physically live. So you may, with Mars's action energy, want to change that. That could be through reconstruction, an extension, the bathroom, decoration. It may be by moving altogether, or there could be some shifts in your emotional world and not the physical structure of it, because of course Saturn can be very much about property. But the thing that Mars will do is make you more outspoken. So if you have been feeling that it's a lot of give and not a lot of get, and other people are still just thinking that they can expect you to fall in with them in your indomitable diplomatic way as you have in the past, they're going to be in for somewhat of a surprise. But I think it's also about you recognizing you can't pour from an empty jar. So whatever energy you've got needs to be directed most of all at this stage towards yourself. So if you are feeling a little weary, it's having the confidence, Mars, which can be about our ego, but in the 4th house, it's not being a people pleaser, it's about pleasing you. So if you're wanting some extra rest, time alone, just tuning down a little bit, not over the entire festivities but parts of it, or you want to get into nature or by a river, a lake, the sea, those are all going to be very, very positive things to do. But Mars can, in the 4th house, just letting you know, be a bit prickly, a bit defensive. It's an echo of Mars in Cancer where it's in its full. So if you feel that someone is being a little bit disrespectful, you may surprise them by showing a much grumpier part of your nature, more akin to the energy of an Aries than a Libra. If you've yet to watch your year 2026 deep dive video, please see the link beneath this video. If you've yet to order your year 2026 personal forecast based on your unique birth data, you can do so now. You'll get 30% off, but also you'll get my life roadmap report, which helps you to understand the patterns that have played out in your life so far. A combination of that and the timing of your transits can help you to plan your moves in the months ahead in the best way possible. You also get my free gift of your zodiac, love, and Indian and Chinese forecast for each of the 12 zodiac signs if you order that too. So Scorpio, the arrival of your traditional ruler in the sign of Capricorn equals a speeding up. You may find yourself wanting to be more physically active or more active about what you're sharing information wise. So if you're someone who enjoys some kind of presence online, your passion for that can be amplified right through to the third week of January. How exciting is that? And they're also going to be, or Mars is also going to be complemented by the Sun from the winter solstice and the gracious energies of Venus from the 24th of December. What's not to like? Well, it's just that the welcoming committee of Saturn and Neptune are still somewhat challenging because that combination, particularly the last couple of years, Saturn in the 5th house is not a bunch of laughs. The 5th house, Pisces, is about self-expression. It's where you actualize your talents, your flair and creativity. But Saturn, particularly when it comes to our love lives, can be quite exacting. So if there have been some challenges, disappointments, sadnesses, or even a separation, that may be something you're still coming to terms with. But Saturn also rewards us with industry, and that's what Mars can do for you. If you want to thrust into a situation with more vigor and conviction and persuasion, Mars in the 3rd house, you can overcome those hurdles. It's all about self-belief. So if you've got something you're excited about, you want to be more physically active in the new year, perhaps even considering a new mode of transport, or you want to move around much more rapidly and in quick bursts through the festive periods, this can work extremely well for you. So very exciting indeed. If you've yet to watch your year 2026 deep dive video, please see the link beneath this video. If you've yet to order your year 2026 personal forecast based on your unique birth data, you can do so now. You'll get 30% off, but also you'll get my life roadmap report, which helps you to understand the patterns that have played out in your life so far. A combination of that and the timing of your transits can help you to plan your moves in the months ahead in the best way possible. You also get my free gift of your zodiac, love, and Indian and Chinese forecast for each of the 12 zodiac signs if you order that too. So Sagittarius, the bigger picture view of Mars's shift into Capricorn is you still have quite a cluster of energy in your sign. Now with Mercury back joining Venus and the Sun, that's terrific if you're wanting to start something afresh, you're wanting to re-energize something that was ongoing, there is something that you're wanting to be bold about. That 1st house energy is really set fine for you. So what about the planet which influences 1st house energy moving out of your sign? Well, if you've really put a lot of application in over the last 6 or 7 weeks, you could see early signs of an improvement in your financial situation, your sense of value, self-worth, in the period through to the 23rd of January. The roadblock comes from that duo in Pisces, which have been asking you a lot of questions over the last couple of years about how you feel, your environment, really asking you not to just move on from difficulties, but to work through them, to really take the time to be much more conscious of your vulnerabilities. And Saturn, of course, is an impatient energy. So as it moves into the sign of Capricorn and is still in touch with those guys, if there's something within you that's perhaps inhibiting something else you want to do, try to work on that first, and that frees up the space for when the Sun joins up with Mars on the 21st and then Venus on the 24th, And you could, before the end of this year, see a surprising increase in your income. But that also could be something that plays out throughout 2026. What's not to like? Well, it's just knowing that because Mercury will be conflicted by Saturn at the end of this year, your solar backdrop for the new year is still suggesting that if you're trying to move beyond something that's not fully resolved, healed or understood, it will stop you being in the moment as much as you could be. So deal with the roadblock, and then you're going to be enriching yourself by a greater sense of your self-value, by a greater sense of attractiveness. Your love life could become more sensual. You can also enjoy all the festive goodies to the maximum. But if you are or have been on a diet, it could be tested by the end of this year. But as you go into the new year, the energy, the action energy of Mars, I think the big message it's saying to you as you enter the new year is you want to be taken more seriously. You want to be valued in a practical and tangible way, and good for you if so. If you've yet to watch your year 2026 deep dive video, please see the link beneath this video. If you've yet to order your year 2026 personal forecast based on your unique birth data, you can do so now. You'll get 30% off, but also you'll get my life roadmap report, which helps you to understand the patterns that have played out in your life so far. A combination of that and the timing of your transits can help you to plan your moves in the months ahead in the best way possible. You also get my free gift of your zodiac, love, and Indian and Chinese forecast for each of the 12 zodiac signs if you order that too. Capricorn, Mars moving back into your sign is fabulous, because over the last 6 or 7 weeks you may have had some surprising mood shifts, at times feeling a little bit more sensitive, at others perhaps a bit angry, and it may have been more difficult to pinpoint what that was exactly about. The 12th house, where Mars is emerging from, is the subconscious. It can be what we don't really want to grapple with, our shadow sides, but it can also be where people are not necessarily being as open and honest as they could be with us, the so-called secret enemies in traditional astrology. And Mars, of course, can be about rage in its more basic elemental form. So moving into your own sign is going to move you partially into the present. That will gain traction with the sun's arrival on the winter solstice, and followed by the charm of Venus arriving on the 24th. But they're also going to be challenged by your ruler and the drifty, dreamy, nebulous vibe of Neptune too. So what you can know for sure is, as you come to the end of this year, but particularly the last week, the gap between Christmas and the New Year, you're going to be much more self-assured. And some of the stuff that you've been working through recently, because of the clash between the 12th house and the 3rd house, maybe you're becoming much more aware of what people have said, social media. You've been soaking up potentially some very tender energies. And even with people that you're quite fond of, you may have become much more conscious that as much as they may be good, solid citizens, the energetic exchange isn't so good. It leaves you a bit drained. Perhaps it's because their conversation is a bit repetitive, or perhaps predictable, or perhaps a bit dull. And what you've been looking for is a greater sense of deeper understanding, and therefore your connections have needed to be more sincere and meaningful. But you're going to be on back on form before the end of this year. Some kind of new beginnings coming for you in 2026. Could be around a job, could be around your love life, it could be around starting your own enterprise, it could be around a hobby, but you're going to take charge and you're at your best. You're a cardinal sign, you're a leadership sign. And of course Mars in your sign is exalted, so he shines brightly here because the combination of his thrust and your natural wisdom and caution actually complement each other fabulously well. So know you've got a very bright 6 or 7 weeks to come, but initially there still could be some of this sort of latent politics that has been dragging you down a little bit of late, being a bit depleted, or maybe just your physical energy has been lower than usual. But no, that's going to be improving by the end of the year too. If you've yet to watch your year 2026 deep dive video, please see the link beneath this video. If you've yet to order your year 2026 personal forecast based on your unique birth data, you can do so now. You'll get 30% off, but also you'll get my life roadmap report, which helps you to understand the patterns that have played out in your life so far. A combination of that and the timing of your transits can help you to plan your moves in the months ahead in the best way possible. You also get my free gift of your zodiac, love, and Indian and Chinese forecast for each of the 12 zodiac signs if you order that too. So Aquarius, Mars moving into the 12th house can be very exciting for a reconnection with someone you did work with in the past. It may be someone who is quite authoritative, maybe it was an official, an executive in a big business, a line manager. They could be in touch between now and the 23rd of January. That's really intriguing. But equally, you may find yourself diving deep to unearth some untapped energies and resources that have lain dormant. But I have to be honest, Mars in the 12th house can also stir up the sediment for things that are unresolved, whether it was an unhappy relationship, perhaps something to do with our childhood, perhaps an accident that we had, maybe a rejection around our professional situation, which Capricorn represents. And Mars can be about anger, but also we can work with that Mars in 12th house energy very positively by being open to embrace what's tender, because the action energy of Mars, if we're up for it, if there are things that are blocking us in some kind of way, then by being more intimate with those sensitivities and getting to know them better, even if you've looked at them in the past, with the help of the Sun and then Venus, between now and when the Sun comes into your sign in the 3rd week of January, you're clearing the way, you're releasing things that no longer work for you. But it could mean that at times you will want some much quieter moments. I think many Aquarius people can be very bubbly, friendly, have a huge circle of different types of friends and connections, but also can have that need for solitude. And it's a kind of duality that Aquarius people have. And just be aware if there are some moments when you don't feel like joining in. You can obviously say that graciously to people. Thank you so much for thinking of me, but I'm not going to be attending your New Year's celebration. I appreciate the invite. That's fine, because the Sun and Venus moving into this area too, particularly around a relationship. If you're not completely comfortable in an existing relationship, or you're feeling very nostalgic for someone from your past, maybe to do with your family, you may find yourself checking out social media more with old faces, but there could be a reunion for sure. There may be the potential for a reconnection to an old flame, but I do use the word maybe advisedly, because that's not a given. One of the other things that can happen with Mars in the 12th house, if there is someone around you who's not sincere, not genuine, they could be revealed by the 3rd week of January. And although it can be hurtful, once you know who's not really in your corner and you can come to terms with that, even if it's painful, that's going to free even more energy up for you to really seize the moment. Because as we go deeper into January, an extraordinary set of planetary influences are going to be amazingly helpful to you. So you've got a lot to look forward to. There's just a little bit of preparation to go through first of all. If you've yet to watch your year 2026 deep dive video, please see the link beneath this video. If you've yet to order your year 2026 personal forecast based on your unique birth data, you can do so now. You'll get 30% off, but also you'll get my life roadmap report, which helps you to understand the patterns that have played out in your life so far. A combination of that and the timing of your transits can help you to plan your moves in the months ahead in the best way possible. You also get my free gift of your zodiac, love, and Indian and Chinese forecast for each of the 12 zodiac signs if you order that too. So Pisces, Mars moves into the part of your chart that's to do with friendships, connections, your network. But Mars can be about us in terms of our ego. The 11th house can be where we let go of that a little bit and we're prepared to collaborate. So Mars in the 11th house for you is actually a very good fit. It's just the two players in your sign, Saturn and Neptune, are not welcoming Mars in necessarily the best of ways. If you have been experiencing some politics, particularly at work, maybe what you want from a situation doesn't align with who you need to work with or for, the frustration about that could be quite strong. But you're going to do a lot of thinking over the festivities. You're going to have some friendly conversations, and you're going to draw into your situation some extra knowledge and wisdom, very Capricornian. And if you're open to those voices and points of view, they can be very, very helpful to guide you as you enter into the new year. Because one of the things I think you're going to crave in 2026 is a greater sense of connection to the right people. Because the eclipse series that's dominated over the last year and a half between your sign and Virgo has seen you a little bit up and down between, do you do what's right for you, the individual, or where do you connect to others? And that's been confusing. So the cluster of energy that develops between now and the end of the year in house 11 helps you to be thinking more about your long term, more about aligning with people who share your values, where there is a warmth and friendliness, where there is a sense of a unity. Those things are going to be important. And if you have been pushing hard for a breakthrough professionally of late and it hasn't quite happened for you, you get a chance now through to the third week of January to just think it through again and maybe recalibrate what's really right for you, because it's not necessarily just about that Capricorn energy of the physical manifestation of success. For you, that has to work well with feeling that you're doing something that meets a higher purpose, and that's really the balance that you can target over the next weeks. But Mars certainly can give you a lot more desire once it shrugs off the misery of Saturn and the sluggishness and confusion of Neptune to really get in contact with and spend time with people much more socially than may have seemed possible only quite recently. If you've yet to watch your year 2026 deep dive video, please see the link beneath this video. If you've yet to order your year 2026 personal forecast based on your unique birth data, you can do so now. You'll get 30% off, but also you'll get my life roadmap report, which helps you to understand the patterns that have played out in your life so far. A combination of that and the timing of your transits can help you to plan your moves in the months ahead in the best way possible. You also get my free gift of your zodiac, love, and Indian and Chinese forecast for each of the 12 zodiac signs if you order that too.